Evening, everybody. We're going to get started. We have one member we were waiting for who's probably on her way. We're not sure, so she may be walking in shortly. But welcome to the Thursday. Petra, we're rolling with the recording.
Good.
Okay. Welcome to the Thursday, February 20th meeting of the Highland Park Zoning Board of Appeals. Patrick, may I get a attendance roll call, please?
Yeah. Member Weisberg?
Here.
Member Wolf?
Here.
Member Chase?
Here.
Member Trushansky?
Here.
Member Zoriansky?
Here.
Vice Chair Yablon? And Chair Bay.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right. Our agenda, the second order of business after the call to order, is the approval of the minutes from the February 6th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I haven't done this yet, but I'll move to accept the minutes as presented.
A second?
I'll second.
Okay. And all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes are approved. Moving on, is there anybody here who has anything that's not on the agenda under section 3 of our agenda, business from the public? Anybody who has anything that they want to come in front of and say tonight? Seeing nothing, we will move on. All right, the agenda, we're going to go a little bit out of order, is what the agenda, I don't know how many people are actually looking at the agenda, but I am, but which is probably a good thing. We're going to start with VAR 2025-0041. The property address is 2300 Shady Lane. The appellant is James Kurtka. Sorry about that. And do we have a presentation, staff?
Yes. Okay. 2300 Shady Lane. Applicant James Kritika. Proposal is to construct a new single-family home. The property is zoned R3, and currently it is a vacant lot. The requested relief is to encroach into the established building setback of 138.6 feet along Shady Lane by 58.02 feet for a new primary structure. Here's the location of the subject property. It's the vacant lot. You'll notice that it has two frontages. This is a through lot, and we'll get more into that soon. And then just an aerial of the vacant lot. And plot a survey, another option of the vacant lot. Okay, so the requested encroachments are all along Shady Lane, which was the eastern frontage. The red is the established building setback. The yellow is their proposed home. And the orange is the zoning minimum for the zoning district. That is 40 feet. And they are proposing to be 80 feet away from the zoning minimum, so approximately 80.58 feet for the encroachment of 58.02. They are not going to be encroaching into any other setbacks. So because this is a through lot, they have two established building setback requirements. They have to have measurements from Highmore Road and Shady Lane. This comes into play because some houses sit closer to Highmore side and other houses sit more closer to Shady Lane. And because of this, the houses that sit closer to Highmore are making the established building setback for Shady Lane much longer. And that's why it's 136 or 138.6 feet. Yeah. So they're requesting to be 80 feet from the Shady Lane property line. We have no other additional comments from city divisions, and there were two public letters of support in the packet that was posted. And so again, this requested relief is to encroach into the established building setback of 138.6 feet along Shady Lane by 58.02 feet for a new primary structure. Yeah, and let me know if you have any questions.
Was there ever a structure on the lot that you're aware of?
There was, I think there was, I honestly can't remember. Maybe the homeowner knows, but I think it was a long time ago if there was anything.
Okay, but it's been vacant for quite some time at this point.
Yes.
It looked like the bulk of the structure was allowable as a matter of right. That's which way is this oriented? Which way is where's the front of the house?
So if we're looking here, this is Shady Lane and this is Highmore Road. This is, the frontage is here that we're seeing. I cut it off a little bit just because it's a very long lot. And so Highmore is to the north, Shady is to the south here. So this section here is mostly garage, and then this is mostly their home. But I can have the applicant speak a little more on that.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for staff?
Can you go back to the next slide? Yes. So the house will sit almost adjacent to the house to the north of it. Is that correct?
Yeah, approximately right here. Let me here. I have a different exhibit that I can pull up. Thank you. Here we go.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is where the house will sit. Also, additionally, there is some floodplain on this property, which is keeping it from them shifting the house a little further towards Highmore.
Any other questions?
I have a question. This is totally procedural. This has to do with I'm aware that the flood area there, is there other permitting that's going to happen after us, or, I mean?
Yes, I mean, they'll go through the building permit phases. They're not encroaching into the floodplain, so if you encroach into those areas, engineering gets involved, but they're trying to keep as far away as they can from that area and sit on the higher portion of the property.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I will ask if there's anybody else here who would like to be heard on this matter, and if so, please approach the podium. If I could ask you to state your name for the record, sir.
Good evening. My name is Nick Standiford.
I will ask you if you affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Nick Standiford, 70 West Madison, Suite 5400, Chicago. I'm at a law firm called Shane Banks. We do land use and zoning work, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with the property owners on this matter. It's one I haven't dealt with before. It deals with the established building line setback. And this is actually the perfect case, in my opinion, for a variation based on the condition of this property. As a through lot, and this is a great slide because it shows the wet area of the property on the western side. And that's the whole reason for this design, is to keep the property, keep the structure east of that. What I'm told, let me just make sure I introduce my clients, is James Kurtika and Jessica Novikas. And her dad is here, who's an architect, Al Novikas. And Al actually was the one who laid out this site design. So I can't take any credit for it. James is also a builder, so he had some input into what it would cost to do any of these improvements, especially if you had to build to the established building line setbacks. And what that means is you'd move the whole building to the west, that if we had to comply with that setback. And what happens is, and what James has said is, you go to the property and in the west, you see standing water for long periods of time, even long after rain events. And what Al said is that there's a ridge water table there. It's a water table that basically comes up to the surface almost like a creek. And that's there. They bought the property, I think in January, February of last year, did some boring and found out that this water table is pretty high. So their whole idea is to build it on the highest point of the property, and that's where they've sited the structure. So what you see here is this is the principal structure right here, and it's connected to a garage here. So the only portion of the established building setback that's being encroached upon is actually the garage. And what we argue in our papers is that the reason for the garage, you may say, why do they need the garage there? Why does it need to be that big? Well, they have one kid and they're expecting another kid, I think, on Monday, which is great. And they want to keep those cars in the garage, away from theft and away from being unsightly to the neighbors. So that's why they're putting the garage in that orientation. But as you can see, that garage doesn't even come as far as the house to the north's building line there. So when you drive down the street, it's a one-way, it's a dead-end street here. It dead ends right down here. And but if you go come down this way, it's going to be it's going to be further away from the setback than the house to the north of it. And this was Scottie Pippen's old house. I thought that was pretty cool. And it was a big. He also owned this lot here to the south. And so the Kurtikas bought this from the landowners, I think maybe after Scottie had lived there. And so this is a remnant of an old subdivided lot, and that's what this is here. So it's in keeping with this house. We have a letter of support that James was able to get from these property owners, as well as the property owners to the south also supported this design. So if you drive down the street, you really won't see a big difference. There are some houses that are really far back. If you drive down the street, this house is extremely far. You can hardly see it. But this is sufficiently far enough from the setback line. And the important thing to note is in the R3 district, 40 feet is the setback. I think this garage is at 80, right? So that just shows that that it's pretty far back from the normal setbacks. So those are kind of the considerations that went into this. If you had to build it back to the west, you'd be getting into you'd have to do a lot of engineering. You'd have to have increased costs to build the structure, and all that would actually probably make it less marketable because you're closer to the floodplain. So for all those reasons, we think this is a perfect candidate for a variation in this case, and we invite any questions.
I'm assuming the houses that are on the lower portion of the slide that are set further back obviously don't have issues with the floodplain. So the floodplain kind of ends where your client's property is at.
We may have another slide here. I think it does continue on down a little bit.
What do they do?
It may be in our narrative. I think that's probably the best picture, which is in the packet. Yeah, keep going up. Right. Nope, go down. There you go. Right there. If you can blow that up. So they are, so they're dealing with they're dealing with the floodplain back there as well. Those houses, I don't know if they had to take that into account, but it looks like they would be dealing with some of that as well. It looks like the house down here had no choice really where to put their house.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for council? Seeing none, I will ask if there's anybody else here that wants to be heard on this matter. Apparently not. Okay, we'll go ahead and we will begin polling the board, and we will start with member Weisberg.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about the presentation and would be looking to approve.
That's it? Okay. That's it. Member Chase?
They didn't make I think they meet the standards. I don't know, the floodplain seems, for me, it's pretty persuasive. I don't see where else they can put the house. Unless they wanted to have a ready-made swimming pool in the living room.
Member Zaransky?
I agree. I don't think there's really any other option, and the fact that it's a through lot makes it even more difficult to comply and it's variation.
Member Trushansky?
Yeah, I agree that this is a textbook example of why we grant zoning variations. So I would agree, and I'd be for it.
And Member Wolf?
I agree. I'd be for it and wish you luck this coming week.
All right. I really have nothing to add. I agree with my colleagues. I think it is kind of why the zoning board exists, to rectify situations like this. I commend council on a good presentation. And at this point, I would ask for a motion.
Members Reyes will make a motion to approve the variation as presented.
Do I get a second?
I'll second.
It's a motion by member Zaransky to approve the variance request and the approval order, and seconded by member Trushansky. May I get a roll call vote, please, Patrick?
Member Weisberg?
Aye.
Member Wolf,
Aye.
Member Chase,
Aye.
Member Trushansky,
Aye.
Member Zaransky,
Aye.
and Chair Bay.
Aye. Congratulations. You have your variance. And congratulations on the upcoming event.
Good luck.
Yes.
Is Kel coming in or?
Yeah, Kale's, using in Glencoe, so he's asking for stuff to be pushed back.
Like 2 weeks or?
No, he's asked for, he thinks he's gonna be here, he's just gonna be late. I said, we're not waiting. So,
You did a good job of this presentation.
okay,
Wasn't that complicated?
if I can find my way to navigate the agenda, it looks like we're taking item 5 as number 2,
My house.
under new business,
The lot.
which is VAR-2025-00040, property address 256 Ravine Drive. The appellant is Frederick Wilson of Morganti Wilson Architects. Do we have a presentation?
So, 256 Ravine Drive, applicant Frederick Wilson, on behalf of owners Jenny and Jeffrey Glazer. The proposal is to construct a new pool house and pool and patio area. Property is located in the R4 zoning district and the LFOZ overlay zone. The home was constructed in 1923, according to the Lake County assessors. So they are asking for two relief. To encroach into the established building setback of 54.76 feet along Forest Avenue by 12.11 feet for a proposed pool house, and to encroach into the required 60 feet accessory structure setback along Forest Ave by 17.35 feet for the proposed pool house. Here's the property. It is a corner lot. This is Forest Ave here on the west and Ravine here to the north. The property is shifted a little more in towards the lot and favors more Ravine Drive. And here's a aerial. This is the existing plot of survey. The improvements will be located here in the back of the house. And some property photos. This is a photo from the intersection of Ravine and Forest, looking at the house. And then here is the backyard where the improvements will be located. You can kind of notice a little bit of a slope on the property. So, the two requirements, the established building setback, which we just discussed, is the average of the block along Forest Ave. They also have this accessory structure setback. That is it's in either 60 feet or the closest point of the primary structure. Since their house is so far back, they get the 60 feet. So if the house is at 45 feet, the requirement would be 45 feet then. So they have these two requests, which you can see the accessory structure, the 60-foot in blue, and the established building setback in red here. And then the zoning minimum is 40 feet, which you can see here, and they are about 2 feet from that. Here is just a landscape plan, just detailing the pool area, patio. This is where the requested relief is located, and just showing some of the trees that they would like to keep on the property located in this approximate area. An elevation of the pool house, the size of it is 425.5 square feet, and it will meet the minimum height requirements. So the established building setback, most of the houses are lined up along the block. However, this property here, 1525, is 127 feet back, which is kind of increasing the established building setback on this block. If that house were to be removed, it would then be 42.65 feet for the EBS, and that's where they plan on proposing to put the pool house. So they will be matching the established setback for 6 of the 7 houses along the block, and just proposing to ignore this one that is further back.
So if you remove the outlier, they would be in compliance except for the accessory structure.
Correct.
Okay.
We received no other comments from additional city divisions, and after the packet posting, we received one letter in support. It's in front of you, and I also have a copy here for anyone who would like to see it from the audience if they're interested. I believe you're the only ones here, so. And then I did post it online, but it was today, so I just wanted to make sure it was available. So again, the requested relief is twofold: to encroach into the established building setback of 54.76 feet and to encroach into that accessory structure setback of 60 feet. Please use the Chapter 150 standards of approval. Let me know if you have any questions.
Anybody else have questions for staff?
Can you show a picture of, I believe there's either one tree or two trees that would be impacted if it was built closer to the recorded setback? Is there a better visual on kind of where those trees are located?
Let me go I'll have the applicant identify which ones exactly, but I believe it's one of these. And they're wanting to save those two, I believe.
So they're somewhat kind of in the middle of the backyard, it seems like.
Yeah, let's do so I'm standing pretty much like at the edge of their property line before their tree line starts. Those trees that they want to save are back here. A little difficult to see from a little bit there. A little bit better. So it's those two trees. And I will go to actually. So this is their landscape plan. It's a little difficult to see, but these two bubbles here are those trees on the property. So they're wanting to try and keep the pool and area far away from those to protect those trees and make sure that they are in good health. And that's what's kind of shifting the project more towards Forest Ave.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Patrick? Seeing none, I will ask if there's anybody else who'd like to be heard on this matter, and if so, please approach our podium. And if you could state your name for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Fred Wilson from Argento Wilson Architects. I'm a partner there.
Is the other gentleman going to be testifying as well?
John Leonard from Argento Wilson.
I'm sorry, what was it?
John Leonard.
Okay. I'll ask you both to raise your right hand and either affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please proceed.
Okay. As stated, the math of the 54.76 setback on Forest, when you remove that 127-foot setback, it does pull us up to that 42.65 feet. And then, obviously, then the other 60-foot setback of the accessory building. In terms of that, we want to make both of those setbacks the same 42 feet. That would work out. The other, we also looked at, can you pull up the landscape site plan? There you go. Can I control that? Yeah. Okay. So these two trees, these two trees, where am I? There. These two trees are right here. This one is, and Scott's going to talk about them. This is a 29-inch diameter, really beautiful white oak, and this is a 23-inch diameter. The other situation we had, this is truly our, geez, this thing's sensitive. This is our rear yard. The house to the east of us is 32 feet from here. There is also 4 additional trees that we would have to remove if we started to put the pool back here. There's a utility pole that's up in this location as well, and then we have the whole car court that's here. So the site kind of uniqueness is this creates the sort of level, if you will, flat area that can handle the pool. And what we thought, the pool house right here, we felt would be an extension of the beautiful architecture of the house. So we want to make it look like we were never here. And we feel that the pool house will also act as a barrier for privacy for the pool itself. And then Scott will talk further about the buffer of all the landscape, and across the street is very heavily wooded as well. So we felt that we studied the other areas to try to really come up with where we wanted to put the proposed pool house. The other issues that we really feel is we do have a unusual lot because of the house actually, it runs along the north property for a front yard, and we have another front yard here. There are other encroachments that are allowable for an accessory structure on a front, but that's when the front of the house is here. You can line up with the front of the building. This is about 33 feet from the lot line right here, but again, we don't have any real location to bring the pool up into here. So we feel this is really, at one time we studied having the pool house back in here, but it was all getting into the tree roots and all that. So that's when we put it out into here. And we felt that because of that one outlier, the one building that was 127 feet, if you take that off the math, I think you're okay. So as far as a standard, our lot configuration is unique. It's not just for a convenience. It's not going to be injurious to the public welfare. We're not going to impact the light and vent of the neighborhood. I think it's going to enhance the neighborhood in terms of the architecture. Again, we want to make it look like we were never there. And we feel it's not really setting a negative precedent for the area. Scott Byron from the landscape company, Scott Byron, is going to speak to the trees and a few other things. So,
well, let me, before you step away, we're going to give an opportunity to ask anybody to ask questions of the witness.
Yeah.
I've got two questions.
Please.
Thank you. First off, the letter for Bill Silverstein, the neighbor, can you show where his house is in comparison on that landscape?
Sure. Can you go to the one that has the one that has all the buildings on the west side? There's that one that had all, yeah, you know, that one. So right there, he's that neighbor right there. So he would be the most impacted by it. And then this, I think you might have.
Can you show it from the landscape plan perspective? Because then I can understand where his house is in comparison to where the pool house is going.
Sure. So his house is, I mean, it's off the screen here.
Sure.
It's probably down in
Okay,
here.
so he's adjacent to the pool house.
Absolutely.
His lot is
Yep.
adjacent, and he is providing a letter of support.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, second question. Where the pool house is going, it's my understanding based on this that you're not touching any trees.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Any other questions for this witness? Want Mr. Byron to speak next? If I ask him to state his name, we know his name, but ask him to state it for the record again.
Scott Byron and Company, Lake Bluff.
I'll ask you to raise
Also,
your
I
right.
live in Highland Park, so.
Ask you to raise your right hand, please, and affirm or attest the testimony you're about to give to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Go ahead, please.
Everyone's actually said most of the things I want to emphasize. Oh, I'm terrible at this, but here we go. So this white oak here, and then that white oak here. This one, I guess, is really a heritage tree. This one's just a few inches short of being a heritage tree. But since we've been fighting to keep the oaks in our area, and I live nearby, I want to keep the oaks. So it's really important. And by studying to put either the pool or the pool house here, the impact of the oaks was, just something we didn't think was worth risking, given the setback, the anomaly of the one house. And then the other part is that this is all buckthorn right now. And so we're suggesting to take the buckthorn out and create an evergreen screen, much like this neighbor has created an evergreen screen as well. So now with the evergreen screen along the south and the west, it's really a very private backyard. We get to enjoy an open area here, which will feel like a front yard and a setback. And, I believe this is the least impactful. There's nothing there. It's been graded to be lawn, and we're just replacing lawn with the pool. And the pool house sits on a little knoll, so there's no grading issues and water issues for the neighbors. And I think by putting pool house here for the neighbor here, this is as far away as it could be for that property. If we study it all there, it gets a little closer. So I just think it's a logical place to be, and given the anomaly on the setback, I just believe that we worked pretty hard to get it in a good spot.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Byron?
I'm supposed to add something, sorry. What is this? Yeah, so it just says that if we put this at 60 feet and push the pool, therefore, to here, then we would be impacting the root zone of the white oak, which just is a huge risk. And again, our white oaks are, at least in my mind, one of the things, ravines and white oaks make Highland Park what it is, and I sure hate to see them go, so, yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Byron? Nope. You're good.
I'm good, okay.
Okay, if I could get you to state your name for the
Jenny
record.
Glazer.
And if you'd raise your right hand and affirm or attest testimony you're about to give would be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jenny Glazer. My husband Jeff and I own 256 Ravine Drive. We moved in a couple years ago with our 3 kids. It is our forever and ever home, truly our dream house. And we're really hoping to construct, as Fred and Scott have discussed, a really tasteful pool structure and pool, just so our kids and family can make memories and enjoy it for years and years to come. God willing, maybe even grandkids one day, because we'll be there that long. So, and also just on a personal note, regardless of the outcome, I want to thank you all for your time today and your consideration. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for?
Oh, I forgot. We have the signed letter from Bill. We also spoke to our other neighbor on, I guess technically Hawthorne. So Bill lives over here, and then our other neighbor along Hawthorne also gave us his blessing to proceed as well when we talked to him about it. I just didn't have him, we didn't have a signed letter from him.
Okay.
But we spoke to him about it, and he gave us his blessing.
I know a few of your neighbors have pools. Do they also have pool houses, or would this be the only one in the area?
I believe Bill has a pool house. I'm not sure about the other one.
Is the pool house going to be a place where people can sit and hang out, or is it just for equipment, or?
Yeah, it's going to be like a room open on 3 sides, so only one side closed, and then screens that can come down and up, but no walls, if that makes sense. So just to hang with a covered roof, but really for use during like the summer and fall probably, but not over the winter, since it's not 4 sides.
Okay. Any other questions?
Is there going to be plumbing in it, or is it just like
In the back, on the side that there is a wall, where that picture is, there's going to be a tiny bathroom back there.
Anything else?
Question for staff.
Question for Sam? Sure.
Any FAR issues?
No, they conform with that fair.
That's it. Anybody else would like to be heard?
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize just one item was the section 150-707 special yard considerations. It's item A16J, which says that when you are on a corner lot, that you can encroach on one of the front yards when you have two front yards, but it says specifically for the longest front yard. And I would say that our hardship or the unusual item on this is that the front of the house is facing the longer front yard. So it disallows that. So if you could suspend the rule and then say that the shortest front yard could apply, that's essentially what we're asking for here. And the reason why we're on that side is that the site pinches as it goes to the other end over here where the rear yard is. And then in addition, the neighbor to the east is very close to the property line, and so we wanted to avoid being close to that property, which you can see right over there, as well as the driveway is on that side.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for this witness? No? Anybody else have anything to say on this matter? Seeing nobody, I will start on this side and then hold the board with, starting with Mr. Wolf.
I'm in support here. I think, as long as the neighbor that's going to be really most impacted has provided us a lot of support. I think the tree issue is significant. Seems like limited options within FAR. I think that they did a nice job with the presentation, and I would be in support.
Member Trushansky.
Yeah, I think there were several reasons that were given as to why the pool and the pool house is being put in the location that's proposed. And I think it's also good that the trees were taken into consideration. I think everyone who sits up on this board knows that sometimes we get into situations with trees and heritage trees and it's super messy. So we won't have to do this here. So I'm in support.
Thank you. Member Zaransky.
I agree. I think they certainly meet the standards. I think it's certainly in a regular lot that makes it, a challenge. As far as the established building setback, they definitely meet it there. If you take the outlier out, they're there. And then it's just, as far as the accessory structure, it's just the fact that they have two front yards makes it complicated, and it would be doing the applicant a disservice to force them to push it east, where they have some grade problems and some tree coordination issues. And to your point, to the maybe the architect's point, architecturally, I think it makes the most sense to kind of site it off of that corner like they're doing. And the applicant's doing a good job of bringing a old home to today's standard and today's environment of living outside and being active outside. And I think it's a good plan, and I support it.
Member Chase.
I think the standards have been met. I'm persuaded by the by saving the trees. I agree we won't have to hear a heritage tree issue, and I agree it's a good sized lot, but it's challenging the way it's sited, and that looks like it's a reverse corner lot, like we used to call them. And I have nothing further to add. I agree with my colleagues.
Member Weisberg.
I think it meets the standards as well. The pool has a clear hardship with the trees as mentioned. I do think there's a bit of a question on the accessory structure setback as far as maybe the spirit, but I think that kind of goes along with, the hardship of the trees itself, and there's really nowhere else to put it in that regard. So with everyone else, I'd be for it.
Okay. Thank you. I agree with all my colleagues. I would support, I think the standards have been met. I think it was a very nice presentation. I'm jealous. I'm going to be a beautiful property, a beautiful home. Hope you'll enjoy it for many years. Can't really, I'm going to hold you to that. Okay. All right. So having said all that, I will ask for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the variation as drafted.
Can I get a second?
A second.
Motion by member Zaransky to approve the variation, seconded by member Weisberg. Patrick, may I get a roll call vote, please?
Member Weisberg?
Aye.
Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Chase?
Aye.
Member Trashansky?
Aye.
Member Zaransky?
Aye.
And Chair Bay.
Aye. Congratulations, you have your variance. Good luck. I see we were, thank you. See, we were fortunate enough, in a manner of speaking, to be joined by Mr. Bernstein. So, I will. Good to see you. See if we can ruin that. All right, that's going to bring us to our first item of old business, if I'm following the order here correctly, which is VAR 2024-00034. It's the Appellant Linder 1 LLC. This was the compare referral that was continued to this evening in order for us to review the findings of fact that were prepared by staff, discuss them as necessary, and then decide if we want to pass that on with our recommendation to the City Council. Is that a fair assessment? Okay.
Good summary.
All right. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the findings of fact that have been provided by Patrick?
Yes.
Okay. I have. I find that they're to be an accurate representation of, I think, what we discussed and what we agreed to represent to City Council. Anybody else have anything to add?
Did you draft this, Patrick?
Yes.
I give it an A+ also.
Oh, thank you. I think Cal has an edit, though.
I have nothing to add.
Nothing to add?
Nothing to add.
Mr. Bernstein, you're not compelled to say anything at this point? Of course, you may.
We just got the votes, by the way.
Yeah. You have to try. All right, I'm going to have to swear you in. State your name for the record, please.
I'm actually sworn in from
Oh,
last
you're still
time.
sworn in.
Yeah.
You're right. This continue. You're still sworn in.
Good evening, my name is Cal Bernstein, I'm the attorney for the applicant. I talked to Patrick and I also talked to Marcus with regard to the draft findings of fact. Marcus, the Martinez, the city's corporation counsel, and I had suggested language for number 2. I believe that as I read number 2, I didn't believe that accurately stated the facts of the situation. If you have, I don't know. As noted in number 2, the draft findings of fact state that, starting with the second sentence, the applicant who purchased their resident in 1089 Linden Avenue. The applicant in the situation is Lindor LLC. That is not the owner of 1089 Linden, so that's not an accurate statement. And purchased the adjoining property at 295 Cedar Avenue in 2027. That's accurate. The applicant did purchase the property in 2007. So I have submitted alternative language, which I can read, that I sent it to Corporation Counsel and also to Patrick Hoffman, the staff liaison. The alternative language that I proposed was that keep in the first sentence, the zoning board of appeals finds.
Is that what's on the board now, Cal? The alternative language?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, that is, so I don't have to read it then. So that's the language that I proposed to respond to number 2.
Do you want to read it into the record?
Sure. The zoning board of appeals finds that the requested variation is due to unique circumstances, and the proposed variation will not merely serve as a convenience to the petitioner. Despite the city's conclusion that one of the individual who owns 1089 Linden has an indirect ownership interest in 295 Cedar, the zoning board finds that that allowing the ability to construct a new home on 295 Cedar will alleviate some demonstrable hardship demonstrable and unusual hardship, and the particular hardship or practical difficulty is not generally applicable to other property within the same zoning district. As such, the standard is met. So I believe that my draft captures the conclusion of the board. That's that I heard.
And it cleans up the mistake.
Yes.
I have no problem with it. Anybody else have anything they want to say or discuss on the proposed revision? Patrick, I'm assuming you can
Yeah,
easily
I can
make the
make
change.
that edit and it doesn't have to be like.
And I did have a conversation with the Corporation Counsel late this afternoon. He received my proposed language. He did not have any issues with it. He said he would defer to city staff with regard to whether to submit it or not.
Okay, fair enough.
Just curious if this does get recommended tonight, when would you anticipate going to council?
March 10th,
March 10th.
I will say the next available.
which is March 10th. They're not having a meeting next week in February.
Anything else from Mr. Mercy? Go ahead.
I support what's written here. I think it properly captures how, at least how I feel about it, and my sense is how the rest of the board, or the majority of the board, does.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. If there's nothing else, I would look for a motion at this point.
What does the motion have to be?
Like to adopt these findings of fact and present them with our recommendation to grant the variance to City Council.
I'll give a stab at it.
Okay.
That I would move that we accept the findings of fact as drafted and as amended
Right.
by substituting the amended standard 2 for the language that was previously drafted.
Can I get a second?
I will second.
All right, that's the motion by Member Chase to adopt the findings of fact as written and as amended by Mr. Bernstein and present them to City Council along with our recommendation that the variance be granted. And it's seconded by Member Zaransky. Patrick, may I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Member Weisberg?
Aye.
Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Chase?
Aye.
Member Trashansky?
Aye.
Member Zaransky?
Aye.
And Chair Bay?
Aye. Okay. That will conclude that matter. Now, our last item of business is the second item of old business this evening, which is VAR-2024-00039. Appellant Neil H. and Toby J. Deutsch, property address 3011 Lexington Lane West. This was continued from the last meeting. Patrick, do you want to refresh us as to what's going on here, please?
Yes, I will. So, 3011 Lexington Lane West, applicant Neil H. and Toby J. Deutsch, proposal to exceed the FAR, zoning district is R5. They did come in with a edit to their proposal. So their requested relief is to exceed the allowable floor area ratio, FAR, of 33.3% with the construction of a 181 square foot addition for a proposed FAR of 36.7%. Location of the property, aerial, just another look at that.
I'm sorry, Patrick, what was the edit to the request?
They reduced the square footage of the sunroom by 105 square feet.
And changed the percentage from what to what?
I'm getting there.
Oh, you're getting
You're cutting ahead.
I have a bad habit of jumping ahead, sorry.
Just a refresher of this is, it's going to be in the same location, attached to this addition here, or just this kind of like bump out area here. Running through it quickly, it went through variations in the past. It utilized the bonus FAR in the past. I did look up, the property owners did build that gazebo, the permit from 1998. I know that we discussed that from the previous case. And then, so the proposed work, it's similar location. It was a 286 square foot sunroom. And, oh man, now I don't have those numbers up here. So I guess I don't have.
I'm not saying anything at this point.
So the reduction of 105 square feet, if I remember correctly, it was 37.6% on the FAR. I will look that up when I can look at the past materials, but just a smaller reduction in the same area. Here's the elevation same look, a little smaller. We received no additional comments from any city division or from neighbors. And yeah, so just to recap, they want to exceed the allowable FAR to build this 181 square foot addition for a proposed FAR of 37 or 36.7%. And I will look up what the past request was.
Any questions for Patrick at this point? Seeing none, I'll ask if there's somebody else here who may want to be heard yet again on this matter, and remind you, sir, that you are still under oath from the previous meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for the record, my name is Cal Bernstein. I represent the applicants. I have a short presentation, basically responding to some of the questions that were asked at the last hearing date, which is 2 weeks ago. Excuse me, as Patrick properly pointed out, we reduced the square footage of the proposed sunroom significantly. One FAR analysis point that is not shown here, if the bonus would allow for a 92 square foot addition. So as proposed, the new sunroom would be 89 square feet over what would be allowed by right by applying the bonus. So although the new proposal is for 181 square feet over and above the existing FAR, with the bonus, it's only actually 89 square feet.
May I ask why you reduced the size of the sunroom?
We reduced this because we heard the zoning board's conversation and dialogue last time, and so we went back and there is the unofficial standard that is not written in the code that sometimes this zoning board does apply, and that is what's the minimum required to get the use that they're asking for. And they went back to the drawing board and they figured out that, the reason why they wanted the sunroom is for twofold. One is to open it up so they can enjoy their backyard, number one. And number two is to provide additional traffic flow around their kitchen and den area that's there, that it's right now it's kind of tight because, again, this is an existing home that's part of other work that's going to be done in addition to the sunroom to the house. So they're trying to update it to try to extend its useful life. So they went back and they sharpened their pencils and they said, what's the minimum that they need in order to allow the house to function the way they'd like it to function? And that's where they came up with the sunroom as we're proposing tonight.
Thank you.
So I really appreciate the fact that Patrick went back and researched the gazebo, because that was the other question that was asked about the gazebo and when was it constructed and who constructed it. If you could put that up, there's actually some really, it's really hard to see on that if you could blow it up. There's some really interesting information on there. It clearly, oh, we just lost it.
I want to get a better
Okay.
look at it.
And do you have the second page, the plans that were approved also?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so he's able to blow that up. It's interesting, if you look at this, obviously the application was approved, so it was a permitted structure, so it satisfied all the regulations of the zoning code back in 1998. If you notice the side yard, which shows 9 feet, currently the side yard, I believe, is 11 feet under the current zoning code, so back in 1998, 9 feet was sufficient, so it was legal in 1998, but under the current zoning code, it's not. It's legal non-conforming because it was built and the zoning code subsequently changed. But the important note is that underneath where it says the side yard setback, it shows FAR actual and FAR permitted, and there's nothing there. So one can assume that at the time in 1998, the gazebo did not count towards the FAR. Otherwise, they would have required some type of representation in the permit application. So if you go to the second page, which is the actual plan that was approved, you can't really flip it, but if you could see where, you could flip it a little bit.
Get that for trap.
Sorry, I don't have that capability.
Then you can flip it.
Well, you can trust me in what I read this, I have it here if you want to see it. But it says that what was approved was a screened freestanding gazebo. So back in 1998, this was a screened freestanding gazebo that did not count towards the FAR. And this structure is actually larger than the structure that we're proposing to build attached to the home. So
Or somebody missed the FAR issue, but it's a fair assumption that I understand what you're saying.
And the fact that it shows that it was screened, that evidently in 1998, a screened freestanding gazebo did not count towards FAR, which it counts towards FAR in today's world. So there's been a change in the zoning code that has made this gazebo legal, non-conforming, and it's non-conforming for two reasons. Non-conforming as to the side yard setback, which is now changed from 9 to current to 11, and it's non-conforming because of FAR. So what we're trying to do is replace a structure that is non-conforming for two reasons with a structure that is non-conforming for one reason, which is less than the FAR that the current gazebo is, and we're trying to make that legal by obtaining a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we're reducing the nonconformity with this application tonight, which I believe is in the spirit and the harmony of the zoning code, is that trying to limit the nonconformities. And what we're doing is we're pulling a structure away from the neighbor's property that is now encroaching and putting it attached to the home. You see this a lot of times before you with garages, when you have a detached garage and then a garage that gets attached to the home, all of a sudden the garage is now counting towards FAR. It's a very similar type of situation. Here, we're trying to reduce the nonconformity, yet still provide for the additional efficiencies inside the home where the new sunroom will promote, in addition, allow them to still enjoy the outdoor area. The gazebo, they would like to replace the gazebo. It's in a bad location, it doesn't do any good, but they still want to be able to enjoy the outdoors. So the alternative is to leave the gazebo, renovate it, which is conforming, as we found looking at these plans. It's legal non-conforming, and which we think is a worse plan than what we're proposing tonight, which is a structure that is smaller than a non-conforming gazebo. Let me see if I have anything else to add. Going through the standards, this is a very unique situation. This is not generally applicable to other properties within the same zoning district. There's an unusual hardship exists. I mean, we have a non-conforming structure that was conforming when it was built. It can't be replaced. We're trying to replace it with a more efficient structure that is attached to the home, which reduces the non-compliance nature on the property. It's, again, not generally applicable to other properties in the zoning district. The physical surroundings of the non-compliant structure is driving the hardship in this matter. The hardship was not created by the applicants because they received a permit to build a gazebo. So what we're trying to do tonight is we're trying to correct the record, trying to make this property better, reduce the nonconformities, and also satisfy the unwritten rule with regard to asking for what's minimum required to achieve their goals, and that's what we're asking for tonight. So we ask that you approve the variation as requested, as revised, and this is a very modest room that they're trying to attach to the house, but again, it will dramatically improve how the layout of their house works and while at the same time allowing them to still enjoy their beautiful backyard and their outdoors. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Just refresh my recollection again, Kelly. The neighbors have obviously not objected. Have they expressed support for this?
I've received 4 or 5 calls from neighbors, and they all seem to be in Florida right now because this, I don't know what that's.
Then I hate them. I don't want to.
Wait. I really shouldn't say that on the record. I'm not going to name addresses because they're like NBA players are going to have their houses robbed now. All of them were in support. And just to note, as we talked about last time, this is in the back of the property. It's heavily landscaped. This area will not be seen by but won't be seen by the street and won't be seen by any of the side yard neighbors. And there's been no objections raised.
Any other questions for Mr. Bernstein?
I think I have a question for Patrick.
Oh, sure.
Can you go back to the, I guess probably the overhead of showing where the gazebo is and where the addition is going? Yeah, that's probably good. If they build the gazebo out, I'm sorry, if they build the sunroom out, they probably could do so without taking down the gazebo. Is it enforceable? I mean, I understand that the case is that they want to take down the gazebo to build the sunroom, but who's to say that they don't just leave the gazebo up, add the sunroom, and now they got even more bulk?
Well, I can answer that question.
Okay.
We'd be willing to accept a condition to the approval of the variance that the gazebo be removed.
That works for me.
I just want to mention one other thing.
It does say on the plans right here,
Yeah.
too, gazebo to be removed.
Okay.
And the
that
plans
would
get
be
approved.
removed,
Yeah, the plans get approved. So I would also mention that there was 2 houses that had similar lots that have more FARs. This is not going to be the highest FAR in the area.
Weisberg, you quickly have a question.
Yeah. Can you clarify, again, in your words, since they built the gazebo, how is there, what is the hardship then? They built the gazebo, so what is the hardship there? That they built it, it already exists?
No,
and
we're not asking for a hardship for the gazebo. What we're asking for is a
Sorry.
hardship to build the sunroom.
Correct. Let me rephrase. Since they built the gazebo, what is the hardship for the sunroom to be built?
Well, the hardship is, as I stated earlier, is a hardship they're trying to make their house a little bit more efficiently so it flows better and also enjoy the outside. And so what the hardship is as I noted, is that there's a demonstrable and unique situation with regard to this property because you have a legal non-conforming gazebo that is unattached to the property, that is non-conforming for 2 reasons. It's non-conforming for side yard, and it's non-conforming for FAR because it is screened, and it was allowed to be screened because that's what the permit was in 1998. So they cannot replace that gazebo with a structure that is small, even smaller than what the proposed gazebo, without getting a zoning variance. So the hardship is that if you don't allow them to replace the gazebo, then the gazebo stands, and you're looking at a structure that is non-conforming for 2 reasons. And if you allow them to replace the gazebo, then you don't have that. So the hardship is they can't replace the gazebo without obtaining a variance.
Do you think that would somehow cause a bad precedent for if someone was intentionally trying to do something like that, or?
Well, they intentionally try to do that because they went to the city and they got a permit to do it. So if someone went to got a permit 30 years ago for something and they're looking to replace that structure, but now the current zoning code doesn't allow them to replace it because the zoning code's changed, that creates a hardship for them because here they have a structure that's been there for 30 years. They can't replace that structure. So you're basically saying that if they want to continue to have an area to enjoy their backyard, they have to keep a non-conforming structure in place. That you're not allowing them to replace it, which I think we can all agree with something that's better that's currently there because it reduces the amount of nonconformity and it makes it actually smaller than the existing gazebo. So we're by basically, if you don't grant the variance, you're basically tying their hands, basically saying improve the existing structure, have that gazebo which encroaches into a side yard, keep that because that's legal. The city can't go to the applicant and say tear that down because they have a permit and it was built with approved by the city. So that's why it's a unique situation. It doesn't happen very often, something like this.
Can I ask, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I guess I need a definition of what a sunroom, what this room is. Is it a 3-season room? How is it replacing the gazebo, I think is what I'm asking.
It's all windows and it's going to be screened just very simply. So instead of just a room with, so it's going to be a 4-season room where the gazebo is pretty much 3 seasons. And so they're going to be able to have windows, but open up those windows. There's large windows, as you can see, on the proposed sunroom right there. And those are going to be screened, so those windows can open up, and so they can enjoy the backyard. It's all window, basically.
And it's attached to the house versus unattached?
Yes.
Wait, sorry, one additional question. If they were to build a gazebo today, the same gazebo, would that count for the FAR or would that not?
It would, today, as Patrick noted last meeting, it could not be screened. But they could build a gazebo today, so they have to rebuild it, move it over, so it doesn't encroach into the side yard if they wanted to
Short
rebuild
answer
it.
is yes, if it would count towards the FAR if it was rebuilt, if it wasn't already there.
But they
Yeah.
couldn't build it in the same place.
Yeah,
No, they couldn't, and they couldn't build it because it would exceed the FAR.
Right.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
So right now, if you count the gazebo, which is legal, they're already exceeding the FAR. Because the FAR is now calculated different than it was in 1998 when it was built.
They also got a building permit too, which I believe is admirable. People in this town do this without permit, which,
They put pergolas all the time without permits and stuff like that, yeah.
unfortunately they do.
Just to clarify, if there was nothing there, let's say there was no gazebo there and they just wanted to build this sunroom, would they need to come up here for a
Yes.
right,
Well, they could build a sunroom up to 94 square feet, because that includes the bonus,
without a variance?
without a variance. And so they're asking to build, what's the number? It's 181 square feet, so it's 89 square feet above the bonus. So we'd be coming to you and asking for a variance for 89 square feet. Or I should say, we would qualify for the bonus, but for all intents and purposes, we'd be asking for an additional 89 square feet.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Bernstein? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask if there's anybody else here, I don't think so, that wants to be heard on this matter. So as such, I will poll the board and we'll begin with Member Zaransky.
I think this is reasonable. I think gazebo, no gazebo. I think there's certainly a goal of the city to help promote people from, in order to improve their homes and make modifications to bring it up to today's standard. And if we were just looking at this, like Member Trushansky just brought out, taking the gazebo out of it, is this reasonable to exceed FAR by 90-something odd square feet? I do believe that it is reasonable. I think they meet the standards for a variation, and I appreciate their willingness to reduce the ask, and I support the variation.
Thank you. Member Wolf.
Yeah, I am in support. I am glad that we continued to this session, because I think the additional information that was provided by both Patrick and Cal was very useful and brought additional color. I was very focused last week in my mind on, did they create the hardship by building this gazebo? But it's clear that they were permitted to build that gazebo. The rules changed thereafter. I am in support.
Thank you. Member Chase.
I appreciate coming back with the revised plans. And I agree, it was helpful to see that the gazebo was permitted. And I think the standards have been met.
Member Weisberg.
Yeah, I agree with the rest of the board. I do think it's interesting that they created the gazebo, but, nevertheless, there is a hardship that was created. And as mentioned by Mr. Bernstein, we're limiting the nonconformity here. So I think it makes a lot of sense to approve.
And Member Trushansky.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to add. I was in favor of it 2 weeks ago. I guess I appreciate that you lowered the ask. So I'm still in favor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was not in favor of it 2 weeks ago, but I think the key point was the fact that as several other board members have mentioned, that the gazebo was permitted. And now, in essence, what you're doing is making the nonconformity smaller. So under those circumstances, I think you've met the standards, and I would support the variation. Saying that, I will ask for a motion.
I will make a motion. Are we good on a condition? Condition, no condition?
It's already in the plan.
Yeah,
I will make a motion to approve the order as drafted.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
No?
I won.
Who officially seconded
first.
that? All right. All right, so a motion by Member Zaransky to approve the approval order as written and seconded by Member Chase. Patrick, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Yeah. Member Weisberg?
Aye.
Member Wolf?
Aye.
Member Chase?
Aye.
Member Trashansky?
Aye.
Member Zaransky?
Aye.
And Chair Bay.
Aye. Congratulations, Mr. Bernstein. You're now 3 for 3.
Hall of Fame.
All right, moving on. I can follow the order of this agenda. There shouldn't be too much left here. I think we're on to number 6, staff report. Is there a staff report?
There is no staff report.
All right, number 7, miscellaneous. Is there any miscellaneous? Nothing miscellaneous, okay.
What's 2 weeks looking like?
We have 2 items lined up.
We'll miss you.
Unless your phone rings.
Is that for the 7th?
That's right.
Yes, I believe so. Let me
I won't
triple
be
check
here.
that.
All right, and our,
6th.
Thanks, Gil.
It's the 6th.
all right, our last item, and often our favorite item, is adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Member Zaransky.
And anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, we are adjourned.
Are we permanently going?